You shout it out. I'm Beth Savill. I've been diabetic for 15 years now. I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old. I'm currently studying music at the University of Northampton. I was diagnosed quite young, and it was my mum that spotted things into me. I'd read books to her and she used to say my breath smelt of tea, and she always found that a little bit odd. Then I got really sick. She took me to the doctors. They did a whole long series of tests. The nurse announced I was diabetic from my blood sugar machine, and my mum burst into tears. At that point, at 6 years old, I thought it was probably quite a massive thing. Why was my mum crying so much? Taken straight to the hospital, and they taught me how to sort of deal with my diabetes, how to inject insulin. Surprisingly, I wasn't that scared. The only thing I really remember is being quite excited about it, which is quite odd really for a 6-year-old injecting. But I get a lot of support from my family, especially my mum. She always says to me that if she could take it away from me, she would in an instant, which is quite a lovely thing really. If I'm going out with friends, I have to double check I've got everything. I used to go to school and I'd always forget insulin. It was more having to remember and remind myself to do everything. With studying music, I went to a performance in our lunch hall one day. My blood sugar was really low. I was being assessed for the performance, so obviously I was nervous as it was, and I knew that I had to go on stage in a couple of minutes. When my blood sugar's low, I have to eat sugar. So that with my nerves, the nerves sort of had taken over me feeling dizzy. So I couldn't actually tell in myself that I was having a hypo. So I got on stage, got really faint and then collapsed. And it wasn't until I did my blood sugar afterwards that I realised that's something I've learnt to sort of be conscious of with performing, and nerves and whether they take over the feelings I have when I do feel funny with my diabetes. I want to be a teacher, which is why I'm studying music here. I'll then go on to do a PGC so I can teach secondary education music. I've always thought that my diabetes would get in the way of that, because obviously you can't just whack out an injection in front of a class full of 30 kids. I've learnt now that there's ways around it. You have to make a schedule, you have to train your body to be used to a regime. I wake up and I have an injection called Levemir. That lasts about 12 hours, so I do that once in the morning and once in the evening. I'd also then have to inject an over-rapid insulin every time I eat. So it's a bit of maths involved. However many grams of carbohydrates I have in a meal, I have to do sort of a 1 to 10 ratio of injections. A bag of crisps has 12 grams of carbs, so I'd have to do 1 unit of insulin for that. It does get a little bit frustrating, and you're sat there trying to figure out what this whole plate of food is going to be, especially when you go out for meals and people are sort of looking at you odd. Your whole family's started their meal and you're still sat there trying to figure out how many grams of carbohydrates you've got, which is sometimes a little bit embarrassing. I wouldn't change anything. It's made me a stronger person.